The shadow behind Nkem stretched across the wild grass like a second horizon. Long, thin, feminine, dripping with a presence that felt both familiar and foreign. Emeka grabbed Nkem's arm instinctively. Who is that? He whispered, horror cracking his voice. Nkem didn't answer, because she already knew. Her body trembled, but she could not bring herself to turn around. She simply sat frozen, staring at the still beating heart lying in the shattered clay pot. A heart that should not be alive. A heart that should not be here. A heart that, if she let herself think too long, felt like a piece of someone who had never stopped watching her. A cold wind pressed against her neck, carrying the faintest whisper, "You thought burying me would silence the truth." Nkem squeezed her eyes shut. Her voice shook as she whispered, "Nena, I'm sorry." Emeka stepped in front of Nkem, shielding her. He couldn't see the shadow clearly, only the shape, but his instincts screamed danger. "Whatever you are," he said with forced courage, "leave her alone." The shadow did not move. Instead, it flickered, and suddenly disappeared like a blown-out flame. The sudden emptiness hit the air like a punch. The wind died. The insects went silent. Even the village's distant hum stopped. Nkem opened her eyes. Amika helped her to her feet, though his own hands shook uncontrollably. What is happening?" he whispered. Nkem wiped her tears with trembling fingers. Her palms were streaked with dirt, her fingernails packed with soil. "I think," her voice was barely audible, "I think my father lied about more than the accident." Emeka frowned. "What do you mean?" She looked at the pulsing heart. "Something was taken from us, from her, from me, even before that night, and now it's coming back." Emeka glanced at the heart and instantly looked away, stomach churning. "Do you want me to call a priest, a doctor, someone?" "No." The answer came not from Nkem, but from the air itself. Both of them froze, her voice, Nena's voice, but not from behind them. Not from the grave, not from the wind, it came from the house. Nkem turned slowly toward the old building, her heart pounding in sync with the one on the ground. "I buried her heart," she whispered, "but maybe the rest of her never left." She took a slow step toward the house. "Nkem, wait!" Emeka grabbed her arm. "You can't just walk into—" "I have to," she said, "because she's waiting for me." Inside the house. The house greeted them with silence, thick, suffocating silence. The smell of dust hung in the air like ancient memories. Spiderwebs clung to corners. The wooden floor creaked with every hesitant step. Nkem led the way. Her footsteps were unnervingly steady. She felt as if some invisible thread was pulling her deeper, guiding her, calling her, demanding she face the truth she had buried with the clay pot. Emeka stayed close behind her, clutching a flashlight he'd picked from the shelf by the entrance. "Why is it so cold?" he whispered. "It wasn't like this last night," Nkem murmured. They passed the living room, the same place where she heard the heartbeat under the floor that morning. They entered the corridor leading to the bedrooms. The flashlight flickered. Emeka smacked its side, but it dimmed again. A low hum filled the air, a vibration, a heartbeat. But this one did not come from the ground. It came from Nkem's old bedroom. The door was half open. A long shadow stretched across the corridor floor, swaying as though something was pacing inside. Nkem felt her throat tightening. All her life, Nena's presence had overshadowed hers. Even now, even dead, she took up space the world could not ignore. "Nkem," Emeka whispered, "we shouldn't go in there." But she pushed the door, and the room was exactly as she left it many years ago. Her old bed, her childhood posters, a broken mirror leaning against the wall, the torn curtain that used to let the wind dance through during Harmattan. Everything looked frozen in time, except the mirror. The mirror was no longer cracked. It was fully restored, as if someone had repaired it, as if someone had been waiting. Nkem stepped closer to it. Her reflection appeared. But something was wrong. Her reflection smiled. Nkem staggered backward. Her real face was frozen, terrified, breathless. But the reflection, it smiled with slow, eerie delight. "Nena," Nkem whispered. The reflection tilted its head, that same peculiar way Nena always did. Their mother used to say only Nena tilted her head that way, like she was listening to something no one else could hear. "Nkem?" The reflection spoke. Emeka dropped the flashlight in shock. The bulb cracked as it hit the floor. Kim trembled violently. "You're alive?" she whispered. The reflection smiled wider. "Alive?" it repeated, voice dripping with venom. "No, something worse." Nkem's knees weakened. "Where are you?" she cried. Where is your body? The reflection's smile faded into cold anger. Father hid it. Father lied. Father chose you. I was the mistake, the sacrifice, the one they took from. The mirror flickered. The reflection changed. A little girl, about 7, lying on a surgical table. Doctors. Bright lights. A man shouting orders. Their father. A knife. A small chest cut open. A heart lifted out. Nena screaming for Nkem. Calling her name. Begging for help. Nkem gasped and covered her mouth. No. No, I didn't know. You didn't want to know, the reflection hissed. You forgot me. Tears streamed down Nkem's face. I didn't forget, she sobbed. I forced myself to forget because the truth hurt too much, because I thought I killed you. You didn't kill me, the reflection replied coldly, but you buried me. The room darkened. The mirror pulsed like a portal. A long, slender arm pressed against the inside of the mirror's surface, a human arm, pushing outward as if trying to crawl through glass. Emeka screamed and yanked Nkem backward. Run, he shouted. But Nkem didn't run. She stood frozen as the arm pushed further through the mirror, stretching the glass like flexible skin. A face followed. And for the first time, Nkem saw her twin. Not the way she remembered her, not as a laughing child, not as a sister, but as a shadow woman, half dead, half born, half human, half grief. Her eyes were hollow, her skin pale and cracked, her hair long and tangled like vines. Nkem, she whispered, come with me. Nkem shook her head frantically. I'm sorry, Nkem cried. I'm sorry, but the shadow woman extended her hand. It's too late for sorry. The hand shot forward, wrapping around Nkem's wrist. Nkem screamed as an icy jolt shot through her. Emeka grabbed Nkem's other arm, pulling with all his strength. Nkem, don't let go. The mirror vibrated violently. The hand tightened its grip. Nkem felt her bones ache, her lungs freeze. The shadow woman hissed, You took my heart. Now I'll take yours. The mirror cracked, a loud, splitting sound, and everything exploded into darkness. When Nkem opened her eyes, she wasn't in the bedroom. She was underground. Darkness swallowed everything around her. She could barely move. Her arms were pinned, her legs trapped. The air was cold and stale. She tasted soil in her mouth, felt roots digging into her skin. Her chest tightened with suffocating panic. She was inside. A coffin. No, not a coffin, a pit, a grave. She buried me. A whisper floated through the damp air. Nkem's breath froze. The voice echoed around her, too close, too intimate, like someone was lying on top of her, whispering into her ear. No, Nkem gasped. Please. Years ago, the voice continued softly, Father drugged us. He took my heart, said you were the stronger twin, said you would survive. He buried me in a shallow grave behind the house. Nkem's heart pounded violently. This is not real, she whispered. This is trauma. This is my mind playing. A cold hand slid across her cheek. Nkem screamed. This is real, the voice whispered. This is where I woke up. Nkem's body convulsed with terror. Where? Where are you? She sobbed. Here, the voice whispered. Nkem tried to lift her hand, but something pinned her arm against the dirt wall. She turned her head and saw 2 glowing eyes inches away. Nena, Nkem sobbed. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Her twin's pale face emerged from the darkness, bones jutting, skin stretched thin. Her hair matted with soil. She looked like someone who had lived underground, survived underground, changed underground. You left me, Nena whispered. You lived your life. You forgot me. I didn't, Nkem cried. I buried your heart because I couldn't carry the guilt. That wasn't my heart, Nena hissed. Father gave you my transplant. You've been living with my heart all this time. Nkem's breath vanished. No, that meant the never-ending grief, the phantom pains, the constant nightmares. They weren't emotional. They were physical. She carried her sister's heart in her chest. At that realization, Nena smiled. Now you know, she whispered. You buried your emptiness. You buried the wrong organ, the wrong memory, the wrong truth. Nkem shook her head violently. You want revenge, she gasped. But it wasn't me. It was Father. He did this to you. He lied to both of us. Nena's face twisted. Father is already dead, she said calmly. I took care of him. Nkem's blood iced over. Nena, what have you become? Nena's fingers curled around Nkem's throat. Buried things grow differently, she whispered. Now, I take back what is mine. She pressed her forehead against Nkem's. Nkem felt her heart beat slow, felt coldness spreading through her chest, felt the heart inside her reacting, beating violently, rebelling, fighting Nena's touch. Nena screamed and jerked back. The grave shook. Soil crumbled from the ceiling. Nkem gasped for air. Nena, stop! She cried. We're twins. We're two halves. If you take my heart, you die too. Nena froze, her face twisted with confusion. No, she whispered. I died alone. No, Nkem said, tears streaming. You survived. You lived in that grave. You fought. You became something stronger. But you're still human. You're still my sister. The grave trembled harder. Nena clutched her head, screaming, Stop talking! Let me help you, Nkem begged. Let me? Nena lunged at her. But at that exact moment, hands grabbed Nkem from above. Nkem! A voice screamed. Emeka. He had dug back to the grave. Nkem's hand shot upward instinctively. Their fingers brushed. Nena clawed at Nkem's legs, screaming, She's mine! Emeka roared with effort and yanked Nkem upward. Soil cascaded, roots tore, darkness shrieked. Nemna's cold hands slid down Nkem's ankles, her calves, her feet, until she was left behind in the collapsing pit. Emeka pulled her free. Nkem collapsed on the ground, gasping as sunlight hit her face. Behind them, the grave caved in completely. A final scream rose from beneath the earth, then silence. Total silence. Emeka's face was pale, streaked with sweat and dirt. Nkem, he whispered, what did I just pull you out of? Nkem looked at the sun, then at the ruined grave, then at her trembling hands, and her voice came out hoarse, hollow, cracked. Emeka, I think my sister is still alive. Morning came like a slow confession, weak sunlight crawling across the sky, touching the village of Ubahun as though afraid to wake whatever still lingered in the shadows. Nkem did not sleep. She sat on the edge of the hospital bed, trembling from the storm of reality that had finally broken open inside her. Her bandaged hand rested gently over her chest, a chest that, she now realized, had never truly been missing a heart. The truth was heavier than any wound. She had not cut out her heart. She had never buried it. She had buried her twins, her beloved, her rival, her mirror, her monster, and her victim. The door of the small hospital room creaked open. Dr. Chikelu stepped in slowly, carrying a file that seemed too thin to explain years of madness. He stopped in front of her. Are you ready, Nkem? He asked quietly. Nkem lifted her tired eyes. Ready for what? She whispered. Chikelu hesitated, then spoke. To finally hear what happened that night. The truth. All of it. Nkem looked down at her trembling hands. All her life, she thought she killed Nena. All her life, she thought she carved out her own heart to survive it. But now, after the hallucinations, the visions, the unburied pot, the memories that spilled like broken glass, she wasn't sure of anything anymore. She nodded. Chikelu pulled a chair and sat opposite her. His face softened, not with pity, but with a sadness that said he had carried this for years. Nkem, that night was not what you think. Her breath froze. It was raining heavily. Chikelu began. Your father had brought Nena home from psychiatric treatment in Suka. She was unstable, aggressive, loud, and you two got into an argument. Nkem closed her eyes. She remembered lightning. She remembered shouting. She remembered Nena's shadow lunging. But you didn't stab her, Chikelu said gently. She missed a step, she slipped, and she hit her head on the corner of the stone table. Nkem opened her eyes, wide and shaking. What? She whispered. You froze, Chikelu continued. You screamed for your father, but before anyone could touch her, she started convulsing. Nkem pressed her shaking fingers to her mouth. You didn't kill her, Chikelu said again, firmer now. Her death was an accident, a tragic one, but not your doing. But the blood, Nkem whispered. The blood was from her head wound, not a stab. There was no knife. A sob escaped her lips, a broken, disbelieving sound. Then the deeper question slid out like a blade. So, what about the heart, the pot, the burial? Chikelu exhaled. This is the hardest part. He leaned forward. Your father could not accept that she was gone. He believed someone stole her spirit. He insisted that her heart be removed and buried separately so that the rest of her could find peace. Nkem's breath shattered. What are you saying? You never touched her heart, Nkem, Chikelu said. You never even saw it. He closed the file. Your father did. He was the one who performed the ritual. Nkem froze. Her mind felt suddenly weightless. Her memories, the pot, the beating, the burial, were they hers? Or were they fractured pieces of her father's madness, shoved into her psyche after years of grief, guilt, and fear? She whispered, barely audible, but I remember holding it. You remember trauma, Chikelu corrected softly. You remember shock. You remember what your father told you, but you never touched her body. A wave of dizziness washed over her. She pressed her palms to her forehead. Her father had always whispered, you must never forget what you did. You must bury it so it never follows you. You must hide your heart from the world. Her lips trembled. He made me believe I killed her. He made you believe everything, Chikelu said, because he couldn't accept losing her. Nkem's breath hiccuped. Tears spilled down her cheeks silently. She had been living inside a memory that wasn't hers, a guilt that wasn't hers, a burial that wasn't hers, a heart that wasn't hers. She whispered, "So the heart I buried, the one beating, the one calling my name," Chikelu answered quietly, "was grief, Nkem, was trauma, was the mind trying to give shape to a pain too heavy to carry." She shook as if her bones might break. "But it felt real," she cried. "Trauma always does." He placed a hand gently over hers. "But now you're awake." Later that afternoon, after the IV drip was removed and her strength steadied, Nkem walked slowly out of the hospital with Chikelu beside her. The sky was clear now, bright, almost too bright. People moved around the compound, children chasing each other, women peeling cassava, men tying bunches of firewood. Life continued, ignorant of the storm in her. Chikelu led her toward the old footpath that wound back to her father's abandoned compound. "You don't have to do this today," he said gently. "I must," Nkem whispered. "I must face the grave that never belonged to me." They walked in silence until they reached the overgrown pathway. The cassava bushes rustled. Dragonflies hovered lazily over the grass. Nothing felt haunted now. Nothing whispered. Nothing pulsed. They reached the spot. The earth looked ordinary again, brown, cracked from the heat, not freshly disturbed, not breathing, not calling her name. Nkem knelt. Her fingers brushed the soil. It was dry, still, silent. No heartbeat, no whisper, no ghost. She inhaled shakily. "I buried her because I thought the heart was mine," she said. "But it wasn't. It was hers. He made me carry her death." "He did," Chikelu agreed. "He loved her too fiercely, too blindly." Nkem's voice cracked. "And he punished me for a crime I never committed." "He was grieving," Chikelu said, "and grief can break the mind." Nkem swallowed hard. "Mine too." Chikelu knelt beside her. "But now you can heal." Nkem closed her eyes as tears streaked down her cheeks. The wind sighed gently. And for the first time in decades, the place did not feel like a graveyard of her sanity. It simply felt like earth. She pressed her palm into the soil. "Sleep, Nina," she whispered. "Truly this time. Not in my head, not in my guilt. Just sleep." A soft breeze brushed her cheek. A warm, light one. Not the icy, whispering wind of her nightmares. A peaceful one. She exhaled deeply. The return of her heart. That evening, back at Dr. Chikelu's house where he insisted she rest, Nkem sat quietly in a small wooden chair on the veranda. The setting sun painted the sky orange and gold. Birds chirped in the nearby Iroko tree. A calmness she had never known settled inside her chest. She placed her hand over her heart. It beat steadily, warm, alive, hers. For the first time, she felt it. Not as an echo of grief, not as a phantom hollow, not as something missing. She felt her own heartbeat, resonant, alive. Chikelu stepped out with a cup of warm tea. "How do you feel?" he asked. Nkem smiled gently, like I've finally come back to myself. He sat beside her. "You were gone for a long time." "I know." She sipped the tea. "But I'm here now." They sat in silence as the sun dipped lower. Nkem spoke softly. "All my life I thought my heart was missing, but the truth is, I just locked it away. Because you were protecting yourself," Chikelu said. "From memories," she whispered. "From guilt, from pain." She looked at him. "But pain cannot change the past." He nodded. "No, but understanding it can change your future." Nkem inhaled deeply. The air felt different now, light, forgiving. She placed the cup down and leaned back against the chair. Then, without fear, she said the name she hadn't dared say for years. "Nena." It didn't echo, it didn't haunt, it didn't bleed. It simply rested in the air like any other word. "Do you think she is at peace?" Nkem asked. Chikelu looked at the horizon. "I think she was never the one who needed peace," he said. "You were." A tear rolled down her cheek. She didn't wipe it away. For the first time, her tears felt healing, not drowning. She placed her palm on her chest again. Her heartbeat was steady, firm, hers. "I want to live again," she whispered. "Then you will," Chikelu smiled. Slowly, the weight of a lifetime lifted. The voices faded. The shadows dissolved. The pot, the burial, the whispering earth, all drifted away like old ghosts finally ready to rest. And Nkem, the woman who buried her heart, finally let hers beat freely again. A final breath, A final heartbeat, a final release. Nkem's story ends not in madness, not in darkness, but in awakening. She did not bury her heart, she buried her pain, and she finally dug herself back out.